Dude, that's so fun to relive those moments. Oh my gosh, we did that.
That was a fun season, dude. We did that.
We did it.
That was us.
Look at us.
Man, makes me stoked for next season. I'm already chomping at the bit to get some fun new voices. Maybe some voices returning. Man, maybe we should have John Eberhart back, or you tell us who we should have back and who
Yeah.
you want to hear from. Tell us who you think should be in season 2's highlight reel. That's what I want to hear from y'all. Welcome to the last, not ever, but last episode of season 1 of the Huntxp podcast. We did it, Johnny.
We made a season.
We made a season. Dude, we've had so much fun this season. If you're watching this and you've been hanging with us, I know you're out there. You've gone through, and we apologize. We have to explain. You're like, where have you guys been the past few weeks? We had some technical difficulties, and we had planned to be done, and we actually recorded the final episode, and the technical difficulties were so bad that we just couldn't put it out there for you. So this is a attempt number 2. It's just that, Johnny, the fun just is having a hard time stopping for a season break. What do you think about that?
It really is. I think if ever there was a time where the old saying from when we were kids, first is the worst, second is the best, that's what we're trying to do. The first take of this was the worst, and now the second is going to be the best.
It's going to be the best. Both the second take of the last episode of the season and season 2, because we're just going to tell you up front, we already have plans to bring you season 2. So do not fret, devoted listener. Oh no, we're having too much fun with this to stop. I know you are too. We've heard from you. We've had some awesome guests. We have some awesome guests already kind of in the wings, waiting for calls or texts from us to line them up for next season. So we're pumped. This episode, Johnny, isn't going to have a lot of new content from right now. But what I thought would be fun is we didn't really know what would come of this when we set out. We didn't even know all the guests we would have. So I'm going to do like a compilation of some of the greatest hits from this last season, a compilation of some of the best moments that were fun, kind of in the form of short little clips that will kind of go boom, boom, boom. So you might need to hang in there, pay attention, look at the screen, or listen intently to pick up on who's talking about what. But it'll just kind of be the greatest hits of some of the funnest moments that we captured this season. So that's what you have to look forward to. But first of all, Johnny, how are you doing? It's like late June when we're recording this.
Late June.
How you been, man?
Dude, I've been good. Yeah, it's summertime as a teacher, so that means I'm pretty relaxed, which is good. Mr. Mom in it, got the kids, hanging out with my 3 kids every day, which is great. Maybe Daddy Daycare sounds better than Mr. Mom, but either way, you know. No, things are good. We're building a house. It's a fun project, but you just were on a trip.
Dude,
I want to hear a little bit about, actually.
It was not a hunting trip, but it was out west and just as fun. Well, I shouldn't say just fun. Well, it was pretty fun. I'm not going to compare it. It's a different category. It was with my family. We ended up in Yellowstone. We stayed in Idaho, South Dakota, North Dakota. Just some awesome time. I had never been to Yellowstone, and man, I love America. It's amazing.
God bless. God bless America.
Thank you, Theodore Roosevelt, because my goodness, Dude, we are just so lucky to have all that accessible. Despite the buffalo that cause crazy amounts of traffic. I mean, there's loads of
Yeah.
people, but like every time we got stuck in traffic in Yellowstone, we're like, what the heck, people? And turned out to be a buffalo herd just choosing to walk up the road instead of the woods. So no, it was awesome, dude. My love of the West just keeps growing. I literally texted my wife on the way out there. I'm like, you're gonna actively have to keep me from moving out here, just so you know.
Gosh.
Like it's so beautiful out here. I can't stand it. I love the mountains. I can't wait to get out there and hunt even further west. But yeah, it was great. And little hunting industry world situation. So as it happened, we had to make kind of a pit stop in Bozeman. That's where my wife Christian Ann flew in and out of. She got lucky; she didn't have as much work, so we had to fly her in and out. So we were in Bozeman, just hanging out with my kids. We had to make a stop, kind of an unexpected stop that delayed us a little bit. And I'm like, I'm gonna selfishly fill our time with something that I want to do. So I went to downtown Bozeman. And if you know where I'm going with this, Meat Eater and many other outdoor companies are also based in Bozeman, but Meat Eater is based in Bozeman. Some of their crew lives there, and they opened a flagship store, I think about a year and a half ago, downtown Bozeman. So I'm like, I got to check this out. And it is sick. It's a really cool storefront, mostly First Light stuff, but all of their kind of key sponsors, they just kind of have a retail space for them. And brought my kids in there. They had the Meat Eater shows going, met a few people, and I was checking out because, of course, I had to buy a T-shirt, get a sticker, had to get the stickers,
Yeah, stickers. Yep.
stickers. And I'm checking out, and I'm checking out with this young dude, and I'm like, man, he kind of looks like vaguely familiar. I'm like, how did you get into this, man? Like, he's like, oh, this is my first job. It's really fun. I'm kind of connected to the Meat Eater crew. I'm like, how are you connected? It's like, well, my dad's on the crew. I'm like, who's your dad? He's like, Steve Ranella. I'm like, okay, so you're Steve Ranella's son.
Yeah.
And he was a super cool guy. We were joking. He's actually on some of the I can't for the life of me remember his name right now, but he's actually on some of the audiobooks recording.
Okay.
He's like recorded some stories with Steve, but super cool crew, awesome storefront. If you're ever in Bozeman, totally worth a stop, even if you don't buy something. It's just kind of a cool vibe. Super chill guys in there. We talked for a long time, as long as they could stand my three kids running around a store. Like three young kids in a retail space just don't work out. It turns into a playground real fast. I'm like, I better leave
Right.
before I have to buy something that I have already broken before it leaves the storefront. But it was a great time. Yeah, highly recommend Meat Eater store in Bozeman. It's awesome.
That's awesome, dude. Very cool.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm gonna ask you in a little bit here what some of your favorite moments or memories from the first season were, or something that's still sticking with you. But first, got a couple sponsor partnership highlights I want to do, and of course, I've got presents as I always do for you, Johnny.
Presents. Oh yeah.
Here it is.
There we go. Yep.
A new Guard Pro camera. I don't even know if this is on the market yet. They're sending this to us to test out. This is the X66 Pro. Man, I don't even know all the goodness we're about to unbox with this thing, but I think it's going to end up on one of your pieces of property up there you have access to, but here it is in the box. We're stoked for it. This one doesn't come with a solar panel, but I think it's like adapted. You could use the one you have on here.
Yep.
But I'm interested to see how this compares to the one we've already tested. But that one was pretty sweet, so I'm sure this one's going to be pretty good too. So
yeah, I think
what
I'll do is I'll put them essentially side by side or near each other and just see how they compare.
There you go, dude. Thanks again, Guard Pro. If you don't know about Guard Pro, don't worry. They're new to the trail cam scene, but we have tested one already. Excited to test this one, and it's legit. We've had a great experience with it. So check them out. We'll get a full review, full breakdown of how this one performs up and into this fall, because we're only a couple of months away, Johnny. You're already going to get some velvet bucks, I'm sure.
Yes.
Also, we'll shout out to these guys, True Dave's.
Yeah.
So as you can see, these are well worn. True Dave reached out to us and they're like, dudes, we're in the hunting space. Would you like to try some boots? And we're like, absolutely. So I got these pair. I've always wanted to, with my old kind of knee-high rubber boots, just cut them off right here, because this style, like this, just plopping them on, works for just a ton of different scenarios, whether you're going out scouting or just want to chuck them on to go out to the backyard, or you could probably wear them in a couple hunt scenarios if it's not too big of a deal to have a knee high. And these were awesome. I actually wore them first up in Canada for a fishing trip almost every single day. And one time I underestimated the depth and I spilled over the top. But for the most part, you know, other than water directly going in the top, they stayed completely dry and were just awesome. Super comfy to have on all day. Didn't get too hot in the warm days. Great boot to have around. Super affordable. We'll put a link in the description if you're looking for just kind of a backyard boot. They actually call these garden boots. But if you're looking, they've got hunting boots, waders. We want to test a few more if they'll send them to us. So we'll keep you posted. There's a full review of these on the Huntxp website if you want to check it out. Boom.
That the urge you had to cut off your knee-high boots, growing up, that was a big Mike staple. My dad would take his old boots and cut them down to that size. And it's like the guy who invented the Post-it note. Like, everyone knew they should do that, and then one guy did it. Everyone knows they should cut down everyone wants a boot that length.
Yes.
And then some people started doing it, and they're so popular. I have a pair, Huck. I had a Huck pair, and I wore them for years until they finally wore out. They were a great product, but I mean, I wore them out. They're awesome.
They're great, especially if you live in the Northwoods like you do, and you got some acreage, and there's different. If you're dealing with mud all year long, and you don't want to strap the new sneakers on, these are so easy to slip on, and they're gonna cover you. And just, I'm particularly excited for the winter just to slap these on and go places.
Yep, they're the best.
They're comfy. Thanks, True Dave. Sweet. Well, Johnny, tell us about this new hunting enlightened state that you've reached after, you are now a podcaster, a hunting podcaster. What are you taking away? Oh man, I'm playing it up too much. What's sticking with you from season 1? And before you answer, I would love to hear your response, listener, especially those who've listened to a few of these episodes. Please put in the comments or email us or reach out to us through the DMs and say, here's who I liked. Here's who I'd like to hear more of. So what do you think, Johnny?
I actually am going to say you didn't play it up enough. It is so hard to deal with this newfound fame.
Yes. The paparazzi, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, right. Can't even walk outside my house anymore. No, yeah. All joking aside, it has been really, really fun to just kind of, okay. Let's back up. I never considered myself someone who'd be like, hey, I'm going to be on a podcast. I love to listen to podcasts, but I never considered myself like, I don't know, worthy of doing one or something like that. But I just think when you kind of pitched the idea, I was like, well, I'll sit and talk with JD for as long as he wants. And now we've done a season of it, and we've had some super cool guests that, like, honestly, it was unbelievable the amount of people that were like, yeah, I'll hop on your podcast. Like, people that I've kind of watched in the industry and just other people in general that you were able to drum up or I was able to drum up. So I will say, yeah, I'm not there's not a new level of hunting enlightenment or anything that we've reached, but I just think it's been a really fun ride to chat with people who share the same interests and realize they're just people just like you and I, and it's really fun to talk with them.
Totally. I'm sure there is. Most of our filming actually happened, like, we didn't start until like late part of the whitetail season.
Yeah.
And most of our filming happened over like turkey season. And there was certainly some turkey tactics this year that I either was way more conscious of or even implemented based on conversations we had. And I would think that there will be this next fall too. Like, I think I'm just thinking about approaches differently. I may have an opportunity to do some land management coming up this year, and the stuff I learned from Ben, which is weird to say that I had to have him on a podcast to learn from him because he's my cousin, but from Dan Martell as well, from growing deer. Like, I just feel like I understand whitetail more than I did when we started. At least I think I do. And I'm actually going to pick up a traditional bow. I don't think I would have said that if not for multiple people that we chatted with who talked about that. And Levi, my brother-in-law, is going to let me use his bow this next year. So I'm super stoked to try that out. And I don't think I'd be saying that if it wasn't for this podcast. The thing that you alluded to, but I want to just put a further point on, is like, Jonny and I have people that it would be fine for us to text, like we've become friends with from doing this podcast. And I don't say that to say like, look who we know now, look at us. I just was genuinely refreshed that the hunting community, people who I kind of were like, I only know them from the screen, are just like connected through our passion for the outdoors and are genuine guys. Like, I texted Roy Holdford after I shot my turkey, and he's like, heck yeah, dude. And I'm like, what is this even? And it's just because we're hunters. And I think from the get-go, our impulse was community is one of the things that's most valuable to us. And it's been so refreshing for that to be reinforced through the relationships that we've built through our guests. And I hope you sense that. Like, Aggressively Average Outdoors, Nick, last episode, like, that's just so cool that a guy randomly finds a podcast. And like, I feel like if I'm going to go to Texas, I'm going to text Nick first. Like, that never would have happened, you know?
No, right.
And that's what we're all about. We hope for more of it. And that's been one of the coolest treats for Jonny and I this season, for sure.
I think it was really funny when we were talking to Cole Booth, and I figured out where he was from. And then it turns out I coached against his sister in the state semifinal game when they beat us 2-1.
Dude,
a couple years ago. But I was like, are you kidding? What a small world. So like, I was texting him during turkey season and everything too. Like, just really fun.
Yeah. I love that. And the power of community in hunting is both great just for a human experience. But to pivot, one of the things that's been going on, Jonny and I were chatting about this before we started recording. Like, as we're recording this, the Senate, I'm going to go political a little bit, so don't get like, hang with us. I trust me, it's not going to get weird. As we're recording this, the Senate is trying to pass this bill. And if you've been paying attention to the hunting community very generally, of which we're now a part of, or have been following Huntxp's social media, there is a concerted effort by a senator to try to sell off millions of public acre lands. And it has been, frankly, kind of fun to watch how the hunting community, this kind of organic interconnected web of people who not only produce content, but just hunt with each other and know each other, got really mad about that. And started calling senators, and I myself called a senator. If you're not in the loop about this, you should educate yourself and see. By the time this comes out, it may have already come to fruition, or there might still be things to do. So check it out. But the point I wanted to make was, the community is not just there for like good times. Like, we actually have influence in the real world. Like, the connections that we have, the things we care about, have a voice and authority to them. Because I watched a senator from a random state, trying to sneak in the sale of, originally it was like 300 million acres 3 million acres down to 2. And then it totally got stifled, at least at the point where we are right now, due in large part to hunters joining forces with other public land hunters, trout fishermen, what have you, hikers, that sort of thing. But a big majority of that was a hunting community saying, nope, no thanks, not cool, bipartisan, no thanks. That's a pretty cool thing. It's a pretty powerful thing, and an aspect of hunting I'd never really thought about. It was like, yeah, I hunt. It's fun. It's a hobby, but it's an American pastime, and it's embedded in our culture. And things like public lands that we access to do what we love, we have some amount of influence over.
I think it's cool too that it's like it's not well, that's off somewhere else that won't affect me where I live right now. Well, it might eventually. And also, like,
Totally.
it's one of those things too of like, I want everyone to enjoy this thing that we get to enjoy. You know, it's not like I want to hold this only for me. And that's what I think we're seeing from the community is like, no, everyone gets to enjoy this, right? You're not going to go and take
Yeah.
this land, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Well, Johnny, what do we have to look forward to next season? I laugh because the answer is we don't know.
Well, we know two things. I mean, we know, okay, we know a few things for certain. Okay.
Okay, what do we know?
We know Josh Ilderton from the Untamed. He's going to come on.
He's coming. Yep.
We know Nick Andrews from THP. He's coming on.
He's coming.
And the third thing that I know for sure is just like last season, we don't know where we're going.
What do you know? Have you ever had an old dude come up to you and you go, "What do you know for sure, Johnny?" You ever experience that?
Yeah.
The first time that happened to me, it really threw me off. I'm like, lots of things, but I don't think I have time to discuss that with you. But one thing we know for sure is we don't know where it's going to head, but it's going to be a lot of fun and we're going to level up.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means. In the meantime, we're cranking out articles. We've got brands sending us stuff. We got products we're checking out. If you have yet to make it over to huntxp.com and subscribe or join our community there, that'll get you access to Crockett. It'll send you a link where you can start using our custom AI that we're building. If you haven't tried that out, seriously try it out, especially as if you're trying new arrows out or something like that, or if you're gearing up with something new. There's multiple times in a month where I ask Crockett about some sort of gear related thing or hunting tactic. So we'd love for you to start using that. The more you use it, the smarter it gets. And we've got product reviews, some of our kind of learned wisdom coming out in some blog posts. So you're not going to want to miss that. If you don't have anything else, Johnny, let's jump into the greatest hits of season 1. And this will be a fun ride. You ready?
Let us jump in.
It's the first episode, and this week on our YouTube channel, which you might be watching on, we put out some shorts, which were some really cool videos of Johnny's boys shooting their first deer. So I thought for our first episode, we would talk about the first deer we shot in the woods. Always a memorable one.
All right. First deer, it was with a rifle with my dad. So first rifle season. I think it was like the last day too, which was pretty sweet. And I remember that being a very long season, even though rifle season in Wisconsin is only a week. So when you're 12 and you sit in a tree all day, it's pretty long. So it was the last day. And I think we had gotten out of the stand because I was bored. So we were walking. And then we just came over this ridge and there was a few deer running around and probably running from me / us. We were on the hoof. So came over the ridge and Dad's like, "Hey, it's a spike, just shoot it. And I'm like, "But they're running, I don't know what to do." So shoot. So I pull out my rifle and I just take a crack and I was like, well, definitely missed that deer. Deer goes over the hill and Dad's like kind of, I don't know, he's doing a good job of hiding his frustration, I think, because the deer probably were moving a lot slower than I thought they were. But we go up to where I thought the deer had crossed, and we're like, oh, there's a little blood here. And we go over the hill, and sure enough, I had shot it right in the heart, and it only ran like 50, 60 yards. And so it was pretty sweet. I was like stoked. I thought for sure I had missed. And then there's this little spike, and that was my first ever deer.
I think that's great too, because like, I don't know, as dudes or anyone really, you love going on YouTube and watching like just a really well done video of like a sweet story and the dude shoots a huge deer or huge elk or whatever, and you're like, just gets you pumped up. But like you commiserate and empathize more with the things that you have personally experienced. You know, not everyone gets to experience those big moments and those big things. So like you said, capturing the real stuff is so cool, because I think that everyone enjoys that entertainment of seeing those really cool, successful things, but you commiserate with and just enjoy, I feel like, more the real stuff, because you understand it better and can relate to it a little more.
The first ever Huntxp podcast drops November 7th.
I was saying the trail is the teacher, and I think unless you get out there and you just get on the trail and you start going for it, like you can study, you hear stories. I had no idea what I was doing, and I learned so much in 5 days. You take tips along the trail, like, mule deers typically will stop and kind of look at you. And it's like, for whatever reason, that was in my brain, and I was able to act upon that and make an opportunity out of it. Now, was I successful? I don't know, but just getting out there, putting in the hours and the time, doing the research, getting the tips, and ultimately, like, you gotta let an arrow.
So no sooner do I get the camera arm set up and the video camera on, I go to take like a little B-roll footage or something, and I hear a deer coming like immediately, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And here comes this little buck fawn. And I'm like, well, that's sweet. So I'm like recording it. Then I stop recording, and then I hear grunting out in front of me and chasing and just running. I'm like, my gosh, what is happening right now? And
it's November, baby.
Yes,
that's what you're thinking.
Yes. I'm like, are you joking? It's been like 10 minutes. And but out pops this 6-pointer, and I'm like, oh, that's sweet. And I'm taking videos of him, and he's gonna probably be on the video a lot. I'm assuming that JD's producing, but he's just everywhere. And he's running other deer off. He's being super vocal. He's grunting. He's doing all the things. He's like making rubs. I didn't get that on video, but anyway, I'm covered in deer most of the night. Some does come in. There's like 4 does, a fawn, and this 6-pointer all in the area. I can see most of them, and they're going in and out, whatever. It's about 5:30, and I look over to my left, and there's an old trail, and some of the deer had come from that direction, and I just see him step out on the trail, and I was like, oh my gosh, he looks so much bigger in person than he does on trail camera. That was my first thought. It's like, he just looks massive. And the 6-pointer is in, and there's like a doe nearby. And he comes around, and as soon as the 6-pointer like sees him, he like puffs up and starts like acting all tough. And that buck just took a couple steps towards him, and he licked his lips and he pawed the ground. And that 6-pointer was like, see ya, I'm out of here. And awesome. It was cool, yeah. And then so he's right now he's quartering hard towards me, so I'm just waiting, and I'm like, I gotta figure out when to draw with all these deer around. And so he's taken a few more steps, but I'm still like, it's still kind of quiet. And this fawn comes from the other side that you can see in the video. And they just, the doe and that buck, they just kind of look that direction for a second. I'm like, well, I might as well now. And I draw, and he hears me, or they hear something, or maybe they catch movement, I don't know. And he looks up, he looks right at me, and quartering just ever so slightly, tuck it right behind the shoulder and let the arrow fly. And man, I thought I made like picture perfect shot, but the weird thing was like, it didn't pass through, and I was like, what's up with that? Because like, when you see it in real time, when I saw it in real time, when you see the video footage, everyone who's seen the footage is like, beautiful shot. And in my mind, I'm like, beautiful shot.
I love this journey we're on together, because I literally have blood on my shirt from recovering a doe. Jeremiah, we went out for the Minnesota opener, and I shot a doe, and I thought I just drilled it, and we started tracking it together, and there was just good blood, really good blood. Oh, yeah. And we found this like pool of blood in the first bed. And then it started to get weird. And then we jumped the thing, went a little bit forward. And then from Johnny's story that had already taken place, Jeremiah's story had already taken place, we together, they were hunting together. We were just like, well, let's just back out. I went back that night, or yesterday night, and blood just stopped. And then I've been texting Jeremiah. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if we're going to find this. And because of your story, I'm like, I'm going back. I'm going to stay persistent on this thing. And I went back today, and I did a grid search, and sure enough, boom, right there, 40 yards past last blood. And so I called Jeremiah. I'm like, I got her, dude. And I honestly don't know. I might have, if not for your guys' stories and yours in particular, I might have just been like, well, shoot, man, I missed her. Like, I can't find her. It rained. I can't find her, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you pushed me to go back, and I went back, and she's hanging in my backyard. And
Heck yeah.
I'm drinking my coffee because I was going to be committed for a long one. Put it down, and I see some deer run around the bottom of the field, and I was like, oh, I wonder what that is. So got the binoculars up, and I could see that it was 3 bucks, but I couldn't tell what size it was or anything. And so I had the rattling antlers, and so I decided I'll just tickle the horns a little bit. Well, I started tickling the horns, and one of them shot straight in the woods. He came up the draw just like on a rope and stopped at 20. He was like maybe a 3-year-old 8-point.
one of the first Jordanisms that I heard was, don't pass up on the first day what you would take on the last. And I think that's
Nice.
a little bit what you were talking about there, Jordan. But
100%.
Hayden, you had more to add. What were you going to say?
I was going to ask, so like in your guys' hunting area, because I don't know like with deer densities, how that affects how they're behaving, but do you guys have a lot of success with like rattling and grunting or?
Yeah, I was gonna point that out when you were talking about that, because I'm like, man, I have never rattled a deer in before. Grunt calls at certain points we do. And I've also done some research on this, and John Eberhardt comes to mind. Mm-hmm. He's got a take on rattling, and he hunts in northern Michigan, which is comparable, I think, to the pressure and density of deer that we experience. And he's like very minimally or none at all.
Yeah.
Like that, like barely.
If you're not doing it at the right time, especially where we live with the lower deer density, you're probably just hurting your. So it has to be done the right way at the right time.
The most wholesome coyote experience of all time, in my opinion. I had both boys with me, and at this point they were like 5 and 3 or 4 and 2. They were young. We were in the duck blind, actually duck hunting. It was an evening sit for ducks, but you could see the back of the field, and a coyote popped out, and they're like, I mean, I had a shotgun. I wasn't going to be able to shoot it, you know, unless it came and swam across the pond to us. But, we're watching
Unless it was in the deeks.
Yeah.
It was in the decoys.
Exactly. Yeah. We're watching it, and the boys are just fascinated. And then Wesley, who at the point, again, he was either 2 or 3, he whispers in my ear and he goes, Dad, does a coyote have a butt? I just burst out laughing. I was like, yes, it does. Yes.
Oh,
I
that's
thought
funny.
that was the best question, just out of the blue, like, Dad, does a coyote have a butt?
That is fantastic.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does.
Anyway,
that's
give
good.
us the bobcat.
I'm so sorry, but can I add one more thing before that I just thought of? Sorry, I'm thinking about a lot of different things that I've learned. There's so much I could go on, but another thing that I would recommend, like if you are calling to coyotes, if you can hear coyotes, sometimes all you got to do is match what they're doing on your call. So
what's the best time of night to hunt coyotes with thermals? Cody Kraut explains.
the rest of the way.
Nice. Good. So you do want to try an evening hunt. You get the opportunity to use thermals. Is there a particular time you're going out that you're targeting? Or is it just kind of any time of the night or anytime you can stay awake?
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a really good question. So just this year, I started keeping a log of the times and the locations, because last year I felt like midnight started to really pick up. And I had a theory that it was kind of whenever the traffic started dying down, that's whenever the coyotes would start to run around more. But this year, our most successful stands have been our first couple, and we've been going like right after dark. So far this year, I haven't really seen much of a difference from time. So we've been a lot of times just going right whenever it gets dark, jump in the truck and head out to make a stand.
How important is wind direction when you are coyote hunting? Cody Kraut explains.
Important, Cody, is wind direction with predator hunting.
Incredibly important.
And that's what I've heard, that it's like, like you said, they'll poke their head out maybe, but if they're downwind of you, which they're going to try to do, right? They're a predator.
Yep.
If they're downwind of you and they get a good, like a whiff, like they might poke their head out for a second. You might not even see them at all, but I've just heard it's incredibly important.
Yes, so that is one thing that I've been keeping track of. We've never had a coyote come in from downwind, and I've gone with some people who don't care about the wind direction, and we're hunting their properties, and they're like, no, this is where I want to hunt. So I'm just like, okay, we'll do it. Never once have I seen one come in from downwind, and it's amazing how often that you'll see them catch them trying to circle to get downwind of you. That's whenever stand selection becomes incredibly important as well. So
I just want to appreciate the work you do, because everything you just articulated is part of the big reason why hunting came back into my life, because I realized that it was so much more than getting the biggest buck on the buckboard. It's one of the biggest contributions filmmakers like yourself have made to hunting in our time. You've had the ability to not just film the kill shots, but it's every hunting film that takes in the factors that you're describing, like the authenticity, the ups and the downs, becomes a short story or short film or a microcosm of life itself and its character forming. And I think the older I get, the deeper I appreciate what hunting has done for me. Those are more moments and stories that I'm drawn to than the biggest buck in Kansas killed this year, because I find inspiration in them for lows that are happening in life in other directions. I don't want to throw my wife under the bus, but she'll walk in and I'm folding laundry and she's like, oh, we're watching another animal die. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. Yes, but no. Yes, but no. There's so much more. Like you're drawn into people who are pros like yourself at capturing and telling stories, can capture those elements. And really you end up watching something unfold, and an animal gets taken, a tag gets filled, or maybe not, but you felt like you lived a slice of their life and you're drawing on some experience because the story has been captured and told so well. And it's all, that's ancient as it gets with hunting. Like hunting is not just sustenance. All the way from the beginning of when we were doing that as humans, it was about passing on what it meant to be human and what it meant to grow in character as well. For me, a person of faith, like even noticing now how hunting in the Bible actually like comes up multiple times. And of course you get the like super cheesy, like arise, kill and eat t-shirts, but it's so much deeper than that. It's embedded in the transferring of culture. It's embedded in the formation of men and women. And so I just hear some of those taproots in what you're saying, and I just want to acknowledge and appreciate the work you do, because I think it's essential, because otherwise it just degrades into a cinematic flex for some guy. Yeah. So.
Well, thank you. I don't know that I've ever quite thought about it as like a contribution. I would say more often than not, it's purely selfish. I just want to be there. I want to be outside. I want to be using my skills in that way. But yeah, I can see that. And so thank you.
Michael's boat motor failed twice, so he bought a Chinese one from Amazon, and it worked like a charm.
A buddy of mine actually like gifted me a boat motor from one of his family members. And I don't want to say the brand, but didn't have the best luck with it. Ended up taking it in like later that year to get it worked on, and took it to Bass Pro. They said they had it all up and running how it was supposed to. And we went to go do some scouting this year with it in October. It was actually like Halloween. We had a really warm weather, warm front end October here. And I'm like, well, let's go out and try and get some cameras out or do some scouting here. And we loaded up the boat, got the motor on it, took it out, fired up like second pull. Everything was running great. Got out there, got some cameras out and some spots we thought were going to be really good. And got back in the boat motor wouldn't start. So we ended up, luckily we were upstream, but we ended up paddling. It was like over a mile back to the boat ramp. And by the time we got back, I'm like, I'm getting a motor that's going to be reliable. And but I didn't want to spend like stupid amount of money on buying like a Mercury or Yamaha, whatever for it, like a couple $1,000s. She's like, I'm going to look to see like Amazon got everything. They got to have some sort of boat motors on Amazon. Sure enough, I look on Amazon, they had like I think I got a 6.5 horse It's called like a hang kai. It's like a Chinese motor. It was $550. So
There you go.
scooped that thing up and got a trolling motor on there for a couple $100. By the time it was all said and done, I think I got the whole setup for less than $1,000. And
there you go.
And got the lights all on there and everything. Got the boat set up or the motor set up, and things started on like second, third pole. It ran absolutely amazing.
I want to do just checking the comms. Going to stir up a little controversy. If you listen to the episode with Cody Kraut, I was super impressed, had a lot of fun talking to him. But I posted a short, kind of just a brief story of him and the first buck that he felt like he really earned, that he was dialed in on, which is an awesome short. You should go find it, or just find that part of the episode. It's a great story, and I was super impressed by his approach. But then there's, dudes on the internet. Some dude just posts, pets don't count. 3 exclamation points. Then there's a face palm emoji, 5 face palm emojis.
Wow.
So
not just one.
5.
Wow.
So apparently there are people of the opinion that monster bucks in Illinois that you shoot in or around food plots should be characterized as pets. What do you think about that, Johnny?
I think any free range mature buck is certainly not a pet. And I think if you listen to the episode, I think he said, what is it? They had 80 acres or something. He talks about using intel from the camera, going back and checking weather patterns on the specific days he got pictures to get the wind right. And he figured out that if the wind was doing a certain thing, the deer was going to enter the plot in a certain spot. And he didn't even have a stand there. He went in and hung the stand and then killed the buck that day. And I just thought, that respect. That is amazing, because mature bucks are so smart. That's my opinion.
Far from pets. Initially I was like typing like 4 or 5 different responses. I'm like, no, I'm just going to let that doesn't merit a response. Definitely not a pet. Cody Kraut, he's awesome. We'll have him back. There you go. That's what's happening in the comps. He's a buck magnet. Despite the 5 face palm emojis from random guy on the internet. We got you, Cody. Do you have a story that's memorable to you from a hunt that you'd like to share, or like something that you're like, man, that was cool, or like that was so awesome to be able to capture that?
Yeah. I guess I'll talk about one of the more exotic hunts I was on, and this was, I'm trying to remember what kind of sheep it was. I think it was a bighorn. Desert bighorn, and we went on an island called Tiburon on the west coast of Mexico. Pretty. I mean, it's a desert. It's an island, but it's a desert island. It's super, super arid. I mean, it's cactus, tarantula, stuff like that.
I love how you combine those two. Cactus, tarantula. That's awesome.
There's not much else out there. Ravens, crows, maybe.
In some sort of sheep.
Yeah. And it was just super interesting. I mean, we had, of course, Mexican guides, and they were awesome, and they made like homemade food every night. They make salsa like right there every night. And just being in such a foreign place and really like being there long enough to build a relationship with it, where you just start to kind of feel comfortable there. That might be my favorite thing, because I'm truly adventurous. It's in its spirit. I love getting uncomfortable to a degree. I don't always want to be uncomfortable, but I'm okay being uncomfortable if it means I get something out of it, like some special experience. And so kind of loved that hunt. And we were out there for a very large ram. I was with a hunter that, it's not enough to just go shoot a ram. It's got to be a giant ram. And I don't know, I mean, we hiked for days and days. I think we rode like 8 hours on a side-by-side to get to the area where we wanted to hunt. And then every day we just walk and glass and sit down for an hour and just look and be like, okay, let's keep moving, and drop tent and make a little fire at night, sleep, get up and do it all again.
I should have stopped you at the beginning, but after you introduced yourself and talked about how many bucks you had in the record books, I'm like, everybody should just pause and acknowledge that there probably won't be a more epic introduction to a guest on the Huntxp podcast.
I don't think so. Well, I was thinking amazing. The same thing. I was like, that was the best ever. And you just so nonchalantly was like, yeah, you got this many bucks in the record book. I was like,
it's amazing.
Wow.
John Eberhart, who has 57 record bucks, reveals the 3 things most hunters aren't doing that would immediately up their chances at a big
Start
buck.
us off with like the 3 biggest mistakes that public land or ask for permission hunters are making right now, that if they changed, they would up their success almost immediately.
Number 1 by leaps and bounds, there's not even a close number 2 is scent control. Activated carbon lined clothing, where you do not have to pay attention to wind direction. My second biggest change that immediately made an impact on my kill percentage would be hunting out of the saddle. That opened up a plethora of new trees that I could hunt. I could hunt leaning trees, I could hunt fat trees, I could hunt skinny trees. I'd have 50 trees prepped every season on a hunt, all of them out of the same saddle. I can shoot 360 degrees around any tree, even big trees. It just does a lot of things for you. I would think the number 3 thing is most people overhunt. That's one thing I have learned to do as I've aged is hunt smarter and not more frequently. Most people overhunt their locations. Most people use the wrong entry and exit routes. That's a big deal. You know, typically most good locations have a different entry route than it does an exit route.
John Eberhart on how to hunt peak rut.
And I consider peak rut to be like November 15th through probably November 22nd, 23rd. When it's peak rut, I'm in a bedding area. Mature bucks, they will physically force the does. They'll corral the does in the bedding area and they'll breed her in there all day long. You know, at night they'll go out into the open, but in the daytime they want to be in the heavy security cover. You know, everything.
And I think it's you've said before, I think from something I heard, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but does will actually come to mature bucks bedding areas.
Absolutely. When a does are coming into heat, there's, you know, like a 2.5 week window when all the does in the area, the majority of the does in the area are coming into heat. So she may come in to where she knows he visits the primary scrape area frequently when he's not with a hot doe and lay her line down. But that doesn't mean he's going to be there within the next day because he may be with a hot doe someplace else.
Got it. So your scrape area is pre-rut, bedding area, rut, and then do you move back to food source around the end of November?
Around the end of November, well, in Michigan, the gun season starts November 15th. So, you know, November's worthless for me.
Mel recounts taking a deer with her longbow from the ground.
With the wind blowing so bad, I had read about people who would hunt with their bows sideways and use it to break up their profile, and it kind of makes you look like a buck because you've got this big sideways, you know, sweep going. So I was like, well, I have to leave after tonight. I'm not going to be back on this property for a while. Might as well try it. So I like held my bow up and like walked in the field, and every time she picked her head up, I stopped. Every time she put her head down, I walked. And I got into like 26 yards and took a shot when her head went down. She was fully broadside, not even really aware. Like, I think she was kind of sensing me starting to get there, so I could see that she was starting to tense up. But I took the shot and I got double lung, and it was like a 90-yard walking blood trail. So it worked.
Dang.
Yeah. That was a cool one.
Yeah, that must have been thrilling. Yeah, sure.
Hey, I mean,
Love it.
Remember what it was going to be about. I did one this morning, so
I got to tell you, man, we're big fans of yours. Everybody on this call has learned a ton from you, even though we haven't met you. And I think we were all, even before you came on, we're just like, man, he's so generous with his knowledge. We so appreciate how you like just do a podcast with people you've never met before, and you're like, let's talk this, and here's what everybody's doing wrong, and it just. I think all of us would say that we pretty quickly picked up, like, this is the real deal. Like, this is, like, I'm going to learn a lot from this guy. So we already have. So we'll probably just ask you questions to help our audience learn from you. And then we selfishly have questions.
Well,
we want to ask you too. So.
What makes me most fulfilled is I've spent a lot of times in the woods. I've hunted in a lot of different scenarios. I've been in the industry 50 years, and it fulfills me internally when I can give what I feel is good instructions for people hunting regular properties and make them more successful, because hunters spend so much money and so much time And time is valuable nowadays, especially if you have a family. And if I can shorten the learning curve and make people more successful, that's what I like to do.
Man, we appreciate that a ton. Absolutely.
How to buy a bow for archery hunting. Johnny and JD's advice.
Yeah, I like that answer, Ben. I would also say, I would echo the fact that I think bows nowadays, like, pick any decent name brand and they have a nice bow that will shoot well. I think you have to answer the question first, and this comes off of what we talked about last week with Mel. Like, do you want to do traditional? Do you want to shoot a compound bow? Like, you have to answer that question first. But then I would agree with Ben, and I would say go to a shop or somewhere that's going to let you shoot bows. Like, there are many archery shops that they'll measure you and do all that stuff, and you can test the bows right there, and you can see what's comfortable for you. Which one do you shoot well? Which one do you like the feel of more? Because every bow feels a little bit different. I used to shoot a Hoyt, and now I shoot a Matthews, and I think I'm not knocking Hoyt. I loved my Hoyt bow. I just had an opportunity to buy a newer Matthews used from my uncle, and I really like it too. So I think there's value in being able to shoot a bow at a place and seeing if it's comfortable for you.
We all shoot Matthews, so super biased, obviously. I advise the same. I said, even if you're going to buy a used bow, which is a great route if you're being budget conscious, because you got to drop some serious money if you're going to get top of the line bow of anything right now. Any flagship, you're going to drop some serious money. But a way to get value is I encourage him to go shoot everything, at least like the top 3 that you're interested in, and see how they feel to you. Because they're all going to feel weird for a new archer. And it's probably more about your adjustment to the bow than necessarily, like, rely on the quality that you're hearing about from places like this, but then determine what feels good for you. And if you're going to go for it, either go for the flagship, or I said buy a new-ish bow within 3 years, because there's a lot of guys that do like get everything new. And it's different markets too. So we have a lot of people in the Twin Cities area down here that buy a brand new bow and then they sell it in 3 years with everything on it and then do it all over again. So you can get a pretty high quality bow with all the expensive accessories attached to it at a discount and still get about the same amount of quality too. So yeah, and don't get discouraged because you'll suck at it at first, even if you get a fancy one. You know, like you're gonna mess until you get your rhythm down and your habits down. I also advised, this may be a different opinion than you guys, I told the guy to don't go overboard on the poundage. Like, don't get what you think you can pull back, because you can always amp it up later. I said go even 10, maybe 15 pounds lower, because you should be firing a lot of shots through that bow, and you want more quality, not strange shots as you're learning how to shoot the bow. And in most whitetail situations, this is just my opinion, but you want longer draw period than you do faster arrow, in my opinion. So like the difference in arrow speed between like 80 pounds and 70 pounds isn't as much of a value, I don't think, than being able to hold that bow back and make an accurate shot for an extra minute or two in most actual hunting scenarios.
Renaissance woman MN explains the #1 mistake hunters make when they start hunting with a trad bow.
Okay. One of the biggest things I think that compound hunters have a hard time with is when they switch to trad, they overbow themselves. So, you know, you're probably shooting 60, 65 pounds on a compound, right? All my deer I've taken, the first deer I got with a longbow was 35-pound longbow.
Wow. Yeah.
I usually start women on a 30-pound bow. And you can hunt with 40 pounds, but I think 45 is a really great starting point. It's actually the most common weight for traditional bow hunting is 45 pounds. So getting just the mechanics right of the little things that you guys would know, you know, like you're not trying to hold your bow back. You're pushing your bow away from you. You know, you're holding your hand. You're not holding a straight pistol grip. Like you have a break in your wrist so that you have a fulcrum for your bow to move so that you're not going to torque it down as soon as you let go of your arrow. All those things translate from compound to traditional, right? The next thing that you really need to focus on is you need to be able to find an anchor and you need to stick to it because you do not have a peep sight. You do not have those things that tell you, okay, this is right.
Or whatever. Yeah.
You know, and so we have psycho triggers in traditional archery. Like I fletch all my own arrows, and I fletch with a 4-fletch helical fletching. And the reason I do a 4-fletch with typically I use a parabolic feather, is because when I get to full draw like this, when I get to that point where I'm ready to release my arrow and I'm going to do that last expansion, it hits the end of my nose. And so I know with the way I fletch my arrows, it's like a psycho trigger that I'm at full draw.
We shouldn't think of them as survival skills as much as just life skills. Renaissance woman MN explains.
Name you use for that.
That to me is a misnomer, because we call them survival skills as if it's a hobby. But like our ancestors just called it daily life. Like here we have turned living into something that is so easy that we look at necessary skills as being something people do for fun, and only like almost like it's just a novelty. You know, nobody actually needs that.
Yeah.
So I consider them life skills, and life skills that are needed for survival. And unfortunately, many people don't have them. So
the gospel according to Trad Bow.
You're never going to be perfect. Like I was at one point the state champion in Wisconsin for recurve and longbow. And, you know, I got there shooting thousands. Like I would shoot 1,000 arrows a week all summer long. Challenge myself to that. And even with all that, I was never perfect. You know, I would still at times miss the mark. And it's taught me so much about grace and about the fact that my striving for perfection is never going to be good enough, but that all of my errors are covered by the one who is perfect. You know, and so like, that doesn't mean that I stop aiming at the target. That doesn't mean that I stop trying. It just means that I know that if I don't hit the exact middle, that's okay. And another thing about that is that with traditional archery, because I'm not using sights or anything like that, wherever my eyes are looking, that's where my arrow is going to go. And so it's helped me learn to keep my focus, to know my target. Because if I don't know my target, you know, like think about aiming at a deer target. You aim at the deer, you can hit anywhere on the deer, right? You miss it. You aim at the deer, you miss by 2 inches, you miss the deer completely. But if you aim at the heart and you miss by 2 inches, maybe you catch the lungs, right?
Yeah.
You know, so you have to know your target in order to get close. And so when I think about that, I have to know my target and I have to keep my eyes on my target. And if my eyes are going somewhere else, my arrow is going to go there too. You know, it's just kind of some of those things that have really helped me keep focused in my faith and be able to see different ways that God's given us these little things that can help remind us of all these different aspects of it.
The thrill of hunting from the ground with a trad bow and arrow.
I've gotten to play kind of backseat with Levi a little bit, who's been on this pod, in South Dakota and in the Northwoods, as I said. And it's hard to describe the feeling, particularly in South Dakota, being in 20-yard bubbles of mule deer and trying to get closer. You know, for like compound users, you're like, I just got to pop over this ridge and send it through its lungs. But trad bow, like Levi had to get in a position where he had enough break where he could pull the bow back and have clearance. And navigating, there was 3 does that we basically orbited around in order for him to get a shot, and he didn't ultimately get the right shot. But that was a different kind of thrill for me, and I wasn't even the hunter. I was this cameraman. I'm like, the feeling you have being in close proximity to deer is exhilarating. And I gotta imagine that's part of the draw of trad bow. It's like you want that closeness to learn the animal in a different, more intimate way that you're talking about.
Yeah. And like you do end up having to be so selective with your shots, and that I spend a lot of time just watching, you know, because I get as close as I can, and I prefer to hunt from the ground. I don't prefer to hunt from a tree stand.
There's something beautiful in hunting, and I think it's the challenge of it, right? We want to be challenged. We want to try. We don't want the easy way out. We don't want to stand hundreds of yards away necessarily and just pull a trigger, and the animal has no chance, has no idea of your presence at all. You want to match wits with that animal at close range and try to outsmart them there.
Yeah. And there's no way around it if you're hunting with a stick bow. you have to. They're going to outsmart you and they're going to outmaneuver you 95 or greater % of the time.
When you switch to trad bow, you have to get better at woodsmanship to be successful. Greg Krause explains.
Better at the woodsmanship part, better as a shot with the recurve, but overall it's just more fulfilled.
So I would love to learn more about that. So tell us the areas of woodmanship that you grew in, maybe that you were unconscious to you, but then became very conscious, like, oh, I got to get better at this if I'm going to be successful within a closer distance. Name some pieces of woodsmanship that you pretty quickly found out you wanted to get better at to increase your chances.
Well, I relied on, because I was relying on distance with the compound a little more, I also relied on height. So my stands, I was using sticks and hang-ons or a climber, but 25 feet was sort of the minimum I was going to climb. I was going up 30. My bow rope was 30 feet long. A lot of times I was tugging on the bow as I got to hunting level.
Dang.
And I started trying to do that with the recurve, but I realized I could get away with more movement and scent was somewhat mitigated, but the shot angles were too steep. At a 15-yard shot from 30 feet tall, I couldn't hit both lungs. My target was so small. So I had to learn, the first thing I learned is I had to hunt a lot lower, so I had to get smarter with back cover. I had to get smarter with really pay attention to not just the wind, but the thermals and everything else. And also have to just sort of pay attention to when I could move and when I couldn't. I just couldn't get away with as much.
I said, dude, it's maybe an hour before dark. It's getting good time. And I was being a little baby. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I was being a little baby. I was cold. I was wet. We hadn't done anything else. Yeah. And I texted Bobby and I said, dude, I'm getting down. I'm cold. I'm wet. We'll come back another time. And he said, quit being a baby and just stick it out. And I said, okay. And it probably wasn't 10 minutes later that I heard footsteps coming up the ravine. And I looked down and it was a giant 160-inch typical 12-point. And I'd never seen a deer like that in my life, being from the Southeast. Florida, growing up in Florida, we don't have 250-pound giant, huge deer. And this dude came walking up like a freaking man. When those big mature bucks and they take those hard, heavy steps and he's swaying his chest and showing that he's the dominant guy. Well, what he was doing is he was coming up to kick that little 9-pointer's ass. That's what he was doing. He was coming up there to beat him up. And he came up there like this, just strutting his stuff. He walked right past me, and I shot him with a Rage broadhead at 12 yards. Perfect shot. He ran maybe 40 yards and died, and it was elation. It was the coolest hunt ever.
You need to shoot your bow, and you need to practice. Yes, please practice. Just do it. That's bow hunting. Get out, shoot your bow every other day. If not, rifle hunt. That's what you need to do. If you're not going to practice bow, shoot a rifle.
Right.
And then we've talked about this on the pod before, but you owe it to the animal to practice.
For sure.
You owe it to the animal. This is a true story. I have 50 acres. 13 of it is field, and it joins up to another 40. I went out early one morning, and I'm calling. I've got a rabbit in distress call. It's a mouth call, It's not an electronic call. And I'm calling, and I've called coyotes out before, but I'm calling and I'm sitting in a duck blind because I have a pond and I have a big duck blind on it. And so I'm sitting in the duck blind and I'm calling and I'm scanning the field and I turn, I'm like, oh, here comes one. And I turn and out runs this golden doodle that was visiting my neighbor's house. It wasn't like their dog, but someone was at their house with this golden doodle and they must have just let it out to use the bathroom or something. And here comes this golden doodle on a string across the field. Goodness. And I'm like, oh my God, that could have been terrible.
Identify.
Yes.
Shoot. Yeah, that's awesome.
Daniel Millette from Growing Deer explains how to manage your land to create shot opportunities in daylight during the hunting season.
How do we catch that deer on their feet during daylight? We can put that cover really close to food. We've got a better chance of cutting that deer off, because they don't have to move very far from cover to food. And feel very safe because if they only have to go 50 yards, well, if they get out there to the food plot, they're going to go, well, I'm not far from cover. If something danger comes, I can bolt and get right back in there. The more critters we can pack in. And again, it's that design. How do we catch that deer on their feet during daylight? If we can put that cover really close to food, we've got a better chance of cutting that deer off. Because they don't have to move very far from cover to food. And it feels very safe because if they only have to go 50 yards, well, if they get out there to the food plot, they're going to go, well, I'm not far from cover. If something danger comes, I can bolt and get right back in there.
I would love for you to walk us through and our audience through kind of from e-scouting all the way through boots on the ground. How do we go about doing this? And specifically, I mean, we've already covered with John Eberhart. That was a big revelation that I learned from him and you is scouting in March when the snow melts, when the sign is preserved. So let's just assume that. And first of all, with the e-scouting, when you pull up an e-scouting something on Onyx, what are the first things you're looking for? What are the first things you're targeting in on as you prep to do a scouting trip?
Sure. I'm going to look at oftentimes where either the most amount of diversity is, if it's kind of a flatter area, or if it's a little bit hillier place, what are some common features or a lot of terrain diversity? I found that with hills, if you have those just textbook e-scouting things that everybody looks for, whether it's saddles or a big like primary ridge system where a lot of ridges collect and you get those hubs, more often than not, those are going to be hunted and you go in there and scout it and find a bunch of hunter sign. But if you have areas that are so diverse with the topography that it's hard to pick any one place that might be better than another from a map, that's usually going to be better than nothing. And if it's flatter land, if I can find a lot of diversity, that means a lot of edge. Then that means that, again, not everybody's going to be diving in and e-scouting the same spots. And you're always going to have those spots where it's like, oh yeah, there's hunter sign here for sure.
So when we were prototyping our Phantom saddle, which in my opinion is the saddle that kind of revolutionized ultralight hunting, I was prototyping it, testing it in 2019 before we launched it to the world in 2020. And the very first hunt I did out of that saddle was daylight to dark sit in Montana over a water hole trying to shoot an elk. And I sat from daylight to dark out of prototype piece of gear. And was I uncomfortable at times? Of course. Go sit in a tree stand for all day. Tell me how your knees feel and how your lower back feel. I've done it. It's not fun. I don't care what you do. I don't care how comfortable. Unless you're in a box blind where you got an office chair and a heater and you can stand up and stretch. I mean, sitting all day sucks. It's hard. It's work. There's no cure for that. It's effort. There are things that you can do to make it better. Like you can buy little accessories like protection for your knees and back bands. And, you can stand up and turn around and kind of modify your position throughout the hunt.
Cole Booth from Gone All Season talks about what he cares about even more than shooting big bucks.
I mean, it's like, I like to hunt, like, don't get me wrong, but like, the reason I love hunting is to hang out with people and like to spend time with people. Like, I haven't went hunting by myself since, I can't even remember the last time I went hunting by myself. Like, I'm always with somebody. Like, when we hunt up by Brett's house, he has a farm up there, and we hunt together. Like, we could go sit different stands and like probably have a better chance of getting one, but we're just gonna go hunt together. Like, neither of us care who shoots it, but it's good. I'd rather just go hang out with my friend in the woods and see him shoot one. And a lot of times, like, we shoot deer like that aren't the biggest, but it's just like for the experience and like being with your buddy.
Cole Booth from Gone All Season explains what makes hunting better, and it's not necessarily bigger bucks.
And a lot of times, like, we shoot deer like that aren't the biggest, but it's just like for the experience and like being with your buddy for one it's just unmatched. Like, I know Brett shot like a half rack little buck this year in West Virginia, and it was me and Brett and Mac, and we were all there together, and we'd hunted like 7 days in a row, and we're super close to a really, really big one, and then he ended up shooting that one, and we were just absolutely fired up about it. Just that's awesome. The hunt together and be there all at the same time was just super cool, and I think people just need to continue to hunt together and encourage each other and support each other. And like, it doesn't matter what deer you shoot or how big it is. Like, if you have personal enjoyment with your friends, then that you shoot that deer. Like, don't listen to what anybody else has to say. You make your experience what you want it to be.
That's great.
Before it escapes my mind, but you just, I think, coined maybe my favorite turkey hunting phrase when you said the Tom gives like a courtesy gobble, as in to say like I'm here, I am a Tom, you can come here if you want, but I'm not gonna come there. I love that. The courtesy gobble, because I know exactly what you're talking about when it's the Tom is hung up with a hen, and he'll let you know, but he's like, and I have a field at my house where I hunt them out of. He'll let you know, but he is not coming. He's like, I'm here. So I'm going to call that now from here on out. Let it be known. Roy just gave me my favorite new turkey.
I can't take credit for it. I don't know who I heard say it, but I have heard maybe multiple people in the turkey world say it before. So I can't take all the credit, but I'm glad that you heard it from me.
I am too.
You got the Huntxp copyright eye. I feel like the more I've turkey hunted, our camp and people I've talked with have talked about Tom's bubbles, and they've said, like, if you can get in the bubble, like if they're held up and you're running and gunning, and I would just be curious if you think this is true or in your experience, if you can get, so this is the scenario where they maybe shut up or they're not moving, maybe they'll gobble at you, but they've got a hen. But if you can somehow, with, you know, it's a windy day or something like that, but if you can get yourself in the bubble, and I think in my experience, the bubble is like 100 yards or something like that, then they'll bust or break. It's like you get close enough where they're not going to lose their hen to pick you up, and you're ticking them off enough. Is that true? Have you noticed the same thing? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely true. It has to deal with like what I was talking about, like calling frequently. I remember there's this one hunt where I was in North Carolina. I was walking the edge of this field, and like kind of it's like a long horizontal, like slender field, like it's maybe only like 100 yards across, and it's like 600-700 yards wide. I was just walking the edge of it, and I knew the whole time that I was calling every 100-200 yards, this Tom could absolutely hear me. But it wasn't until like I wrapped all the way around and got in his bubble did he gobble, and then came right in. So the bubble is for sure a thing.
Sure. Do you guys ever have this experience? Like we have guests at our house tonight or this weekend, and they have small children, friends from out of town that are staying with us. And sometimes I remember and sometimes I don't, but I have gotten in the habit of like warning the small children before they walk downstairs into my basement, because I'm like, okay, there's animals down there, and they're not alive, just so you know. But I'm sure you have to give that
I always
warning.
think it's a funny thing, because in our basement, like our guests will stay in my basement, and it's finished, and there's lots of animals down there too. And there's a shoulder mount of a bear, and the bed is literally right under it. So when you're sleeping, the bear is like right over the top of you, which I think is great.
Perfect.
But for some people, maybe that's not their cup of tea, but just is what it is.
Right.
Because you have video of him on your trail camera in that video, correct?
Yep. Like our whole team's on like, you know, the reveal account. And so I'm like in the tree getting inundated with calls and texts before I even say like the down, because they had already requested the video. And I was like, yeah.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
I shot a really nice buck this year with my bow, and same thing. I'm like in the tree, and they're getting the same pictures that I am. And I shoot this buck, and my dad, before I can even like calm myself, collect myself after I shoot it, I get a call, and he's like, "Did you get him? I see he's not on camera anymore." I'm like, "I did, but holy cow!"
Yeah, no, it's wild. Like,
give me a moment,
right?
Yes.
They had sent me in our group text the trail camera video of him being shot before I even like realized. Like, I was like, "Oh, he had to be on camera, right?" And then I'm looking, like, "Oh shoot, that's pretty cool."
Yeah, it's awesome.
Wow, dude. Why is core so important?
Well, I'd say I think it helps keep everything together. You know, if you have a loose, floppy core or it's just weak, I think
your legs and stuff will feel it too. I think it helps balance you as you move. As you mentioned, being not on a nice trail, walking to a deer stand, but there's logs to go over or trees to go under, and keep that balance with a, you know, weighted pack on and everything else. I think that's huge.
It's definitely the, you know, the chain between your upper and lower body. And then it's actually, I found a lot of times, like, it's counteracting the weight that you're going to feel on your back. You're going to feel the weight on your back, and you need to have a strong, stable core in order to make that, I guess, more bearable for the time that you're out there.
I mean, I knew it went down, but I don't think they did. So we hike up there, and she's like, "Oh, are we going to see any blood up here? Is there anything?" And we get there, and I'm like, "Oh, well, hopefully it's up here." And I can see it just behind the other logs over there. And, well, I don't know. What do you think? And, you know, he finally gets up there. I think it looks like it's headed this way, and literally 10 yards away. And then both just the girl and dad broke down crying. So it was a good hard hunt and ended up in a good harvest.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, that is cool.
How does that feel as a guide to facilitate that sort of moment for a father and daughter?
I mean, man, I teared up a little bit. It was equally as rewarding for me just to have that all come together like that, and just share that moment with them, and just seeing how they connected with each other. Yeah, it's really cool.
Awesome, man.
And the first elk I shot back there, I was like, well, now what? Now what do I do? And I radioed my dad, and, you know, he came, and I had never done the gutless method before. I had never quartered up an animal of that size. I had quartered up whitetail before, but I've never quartered up an animal of that size. And that's one thing too, just the sheer difference in size of those animals. I didn't know how to keep the meat clean. I didn't know what to do. And just some practical things of, like, we like to bring a tarp out to do everything on the tarp just to keep it from hitting the ground. You might have a different method. I know you can use the hide as well, and we've done that before, but just things that you do not even think of. You're just out there in your mind like, I'm going to shoot this big old bull and it's going to be fantastic. And it is going to be fantastic, but you have to know what to do so that animal doesn't go to waste or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. That scares people, so I want to teach them that. And maybe I'm starting with the elk camps. Ideally, I'd like to branch off and maybe do some mule deer stuff or black bear as well. Kind of give you an introduction to all these things and send you on your way.
You said earlier that you liked to shoot them off the roost, which I can't disagree with. That's exhilarating. But a close second for me is getting eyeballs on a tom. And this is a privilege we have of the terrain that we hunt in Wisconsin. There's often roads around ag fields, and they're out in those. We'll like turn the corner, throw the binos up, and we're like, yeah, there you go. It's the black dot in the middle of the brown field. It's like a great feeling. There's the tom, and we have permission on it, or we can go get permission on it. And I love those hunts because it's the sneak attack that I love so much. And I will affirm again, the tom decoy in that situation is just awesome. And I've killed multiple tom by basically doing this formula. Find out where he's generally, or the group is generally working towards, what direction they're working towards, and then get in that path and get over the ridge, stick the tom decoy out, and start clucking soft clucks. And I've killed 3 or 4 different toms that way, where I've located the bird from the road and found kind of where they're working towards, put a tom decoy so that they see the fan. I shot a tom in that scenario. I was with Jordan, and he literally crawled up to the field edge behind the tom decoy and stuck it out in front of him like this, and I was just to his left like 5 yards, and all we needed was the tom to see the top of that fan, and he closed the distance immediately. Like, he was at 70, and then he closed the distance like sprinting like that, and all I got was like the white head, and I just took it out. So that's what we're talking about. Just wanted to put that all together for the terrain situation.
Dude, that's so fun to relive those moments. Oh my gosh, we did that.
That was a fun season, dude. We did that.
We did it.
That was us.
Look at us.
Man, makes me stoked for next season. I'm already chomping at the bit to get some fun new voices. Maybe some voices returning. Man, maybe we should have John Eberhart back, or you tell us who we should have back and who you want to hear from. Tell us who you think should be in season 2's highlight reel. That's what I want to hear from y'all. Heck, that was and has been an awesome season. Deep thanks to you, watcher and listener. Many of you come to mind as I say that. Thank you for this fun ride that we've been on. Let's keep it up. Make sure you're subscribed, notifications. I would love for you to go to huntxp.com and click the join our community, because that will ensure that you get an email and you will be in the loop about all things Huntxp, and you will know when season 2 is on the way. We hope for the first episode to drop sometime in August, so stay tuned. Any parting words, Johnny?
No.
No.
No
Ron Swanson quotes or
No,
anything?
I know. I was trying to come up with something, but I got nothing. So, yeah.
That's all good. We've had a blast this season. We'll be back for next one. Later.
Hey there, thanks for watching this video. I'm JD, founder and crew member of the Huntxp team. We're so grateful that you took time to watch this video, and hopefully it's helping you level up your hunting game. That's what we and our community is all about, and we want to invite you into this growing community of hunters. It's all about leveling up each other's hunting game. So the first thing you can do is like and subscribe, but even more than that, we got some fun things going on over at our website, huntxp.com. We'd love for you to join our community there and stay connected with what we're doing, what we're working on, and we'd love to hear about what you're after. So thank you for watching this video. We'll see you next time.